All right, Homesteader family, welcome back to the journey. Welcome to this edition of the Sunday Monday vlog. Mickey Mouse knew I was going to start filming, so he comes crawling over here. Chubbs is over here sleeping. Got Max on the floor, and since the bed is low enough, Minnie Mouse is in the bed. She didn't like the stairs, so she stayed out the bed most of the time. Now she spends all her time laying in the bed. So, going forward, we're going to change tonight's Sunday, Monday vlog around. I'm going to go over the topic because some people say I should cover the topic before I talk about what I've done this week and what's coming up. And some people say I should keep it the way I'm doing it, where I talk about what I've done, what's coming up, and then get into the topic. So I'm going to change it around for some of you that want to know the topic information first and don't really care about what happened throughout the week. And at the end of this video, then I'll go ahead and talk about that. I also need to change, now that I think about that, go to live chat, so that way for anybody that comments, I can see that, because I know sometimes I forget to do that and I don't see anybody's comments. So for tonight's topic is homesteading mistakes to avoid. As you all know, I do some homesteading. I'm not a massive homesteading channel, even though it's a homesteading channel, because I don't have the big gardens, I don't have the orchards, I don't have honeybees, I don't have all that type of stuff yet. We've seen throughout this journey since 2016, from getting Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse to protect from the mountain lion that almost killed me, to the rabbits I had, to chickens, to ducks, to geese, all the way up to camels and so forth. Doing gardens in my upstairs bathroom in the 2-story house I had back in Colorado, to moving over to the 50-acre ranch, and then moving out here to the 120 acres to do homesteading. So over all this time and throughout my experiences, which I've had many of, and starting over and redoing everything, I've learned a lot of mistakes that a lot of people can avoid when homesteading. And I want to share some of those to try to help save you guys money, save you some time, save you some headache. And the biggest thing in homesteading that you should do first before anything else, of course, buying land. But I'm saying once you buy the land, the first priority should be infrastructure. And what I mean by infrastructure is get your house built, or get a cabin built, get your shops built if you want shops, if you want barns, get your barns built, and fencing, get your fencing up. You want to do all that before you get animals. And the reason I say that is because no matter where you live, whether it's California, New York, Colorado, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, wherever you live, including around the world, nobody is going to care about your homestead, your animals, what you want to accomplish more than what their priorities are. So by having fences, which is a key thing, and as we know, I've done fencing on every one of my properties, haven't had issues on all my properties, but I have found out that throughout time, fences is the #1 buffer to help stop any issues from neighbors' dogs to dogs that are just dropped and loose, to people that come in, to people that drive through properties, four-wheeling through properties, dirt biking through properties, just hiking through your property. So by getting the infrastructure up first, you nip 90% of the issues right off the bat by getting fencing up. Then the other infrastructure, like I said, the barns, the shop, the houses. Before you get any animals, it's so much easier if you got to work with the animals, or you got to medicate the animals, or you have to trim hooves or trim horns if you don't let them roam. In nature, people don't go and trim goat hooves. Why? Because they climb over rocks, they go over rocky ground, it grinds it down. They do their own trimming. Hence why all my animals aren't in a little pen that has 6 inches of mud that you have to scrape the poop out every week, because I want them to trim all their own hooves. Because if you have all the animals I have, you would spend your whole life just trimming hooves if they were in a regular paddock or barn. So, barns, fences, shops. If you're going to do gardening, you want to get your greenhouses, you want to get all this stuff done. Why? It's like I said, it's going to stop 90% of your issues. Barn, 90% of the issues isn't stray dogs and stuff like that. It's going to be, like I said, medicating your animals, working on your animals. If you have babies, then you're able to lock up mama goats and baby goats together so they don't get separated. So crows can't get to your baby goats, baby sheep, whatever you have, other animals, baby rabbits, so on and so forth. But that solves 90% of those issues right off the bat. If you've done what I've done, and that is get into homesteading before you have everything done, at my original house, as we saw me scramble back in 2016 to get some fencing done for the animals that I got, the first chickens. You can lose animals as well. They can take off on you. You got predators that can eat them. You got hawks and things like that. If you don't have greenhouses for your gardens and you have real bad weather or cold snaps, things like that, a greenhouse can save you. Save your crops, save your animals, and so forth. So that's the first priority. The first thing to avoid when homesteading is getting the animals or getting the plants or getting the seeds or getting the honeybees before you have everything set up. The next thing is you want to do your research on what animals you want. Some animals you may think you want, but if you research real well and you listen to people's stories, it may not fit with you. I had rabbits for a while. The rabbits produce like crazy, but they dug. I didn't have cages for them, so they would get loose and then they'd be all over the place. I also had hawks come in and watch baby rabbits get taken away and things like that. So rabbits don't work for me. That's why I like bigger animals. If you want to do pens for rabbits, then you've got to think of your time. And we all know I like the lazy way of homesteading. That's why I spend a lot more money on hay and feed and stuff like that, because then I don't have to do things every single day, multiple times a day, like if you have cages and pens. So if you want rabbits and you put them in pens, you got to remember your rabbits are going to be safe, but you're going to have to clean out the poop from the pens. You're going to have to change the water and the feed out in the pens. Same thing with animals. If you have a horse in a horse stall and you don't have horses roaming free across the property, you're going to have to clean out the stall. You're going to have to go in. You're going to have to hay them a couple times a day. You're going to have to grain them once or twice a day. You're going to have to change the waters out. Yes, we all know you need attention. But if you have animals out in the open like me, that's one way to avoid making a mistake of eating up your time. If you put a bunch of round bales out or square bales out, your animals have access to feed 24 hours a day, then they're not going to overeat when you do feed the flakes or the grain a couple times a day because they're starving or what have you. They're not going to gorge themselves. They're not going to make themselves sick. They're not going to eat the wrong stuff, do the wrong stuff, misbehave. I know a lot of horses and stuff that are in horse stalls. They end up chewing up all the wood and the trim and stuff like that because they're lacking exercise, lacking entertainment. Where with me, my animals all roam together. So the animals will play with each other, chase each other, play tug of war with sheets or tarps or whatever they can get their teeth on, and go from there. Another mistake to avoid that I've learned is when it comes to gardening. Get real excited about gardening. You get a whole bunch of red solo cups like I've done, or a bunch of seed trays, and you plant way too many things of the same, or way too much altogether for all the seedlings you're doing, and you don't have the space. If you plan everything out first, you build the infrastructure, which is building the raised garden beds or building the greenhouse or building a 1 acre crop flatland farming, whatever you end up doing, hugelkultur beds, aquaponics, permaculture, depends on what you want to do. I've done a little bit of all different stuff, but build that infrastructure first. Know that you can do 20 seedlings in this area and 100 seedlings in this area versus having 100 seedlings and realize the only thing you're going to get accomplished is enough to do 5 seedlings because the plants are going to bush out and you're not going to have the space. Honeybees, I haven't got to that yet, but if you don't have all the hive set up, if you don't have a food source for the bees, flowers for multiple times throughout the year, not just 1 month, all the flowers bloom. You want flowers that are going to bloom throughout the year. Don't know what else for bees, but if you're looking at getting bees, you want to do your research just like I will before I get into bees. When it comes to animals, like I said, do your research, figure out what animals you want. Goats will work for some people. Dogs will work for some people. Camels for very few. Zebras, horses, llamas, alpacas. You just got to figure out what you want, whether you want big animals that are hard to handle because they're a lot bigger than you, a lot stronger than you, or if you want to do small animals like lemurs and wallabies and sloths and stuff like that. Depends on where at you go in your homesteading journey, into exotics or just to farm animals or what have you. You might want miniature cows versus a 2,000 pound cow. You may want zebu, which get up to 700 to 900 pounds versus a 2,000 pound. You may want some fur, so you go with Scottish Highlander cattle. Do your research on your animals and then do your research on what the animals take. How much acres per cow, how many acres per horse, so on and so forth. Yes, you can always put the animals in a smaller section than acre to animal, but that's going to cost you. So by me not having the whole 120 acres fenced yet, it's costing me money. I'm spending $1,000 a month in hay. I spend $1,200 to $1,400 a month in grain. I spend several $100s a month in baking soda, minerals, salts, and something else. But you got to account for all this. So if you're able to get the infrastructure built and you have all your land fenced and you have 5 acres and you only have 2 cows, because you don't ever want to have one animal. You always want at least 2 so they have another of their species to entertain with, play with, what have you, have company. 2 cows can be on 5 acres and that will be real good. Now, yes, you're still going to have to buy some food because wintertime, grass isn't growing. And part of the land has to rest and so on and so forth. But you want to do your research on that. Another thing is water. In Colorado, I learned that the hard way at my house. Colorado has very, very little rain, very little moisture with the snow. It's a lot of dry snow. It's not a lot of wet snow. So on average, we got like 7 to 9 inches combined a year, rain-wise. And an inch of rain is like 10 inches of snow. So very little moisture. That's why where I was in Cotopaxi, Colorado, it was the high desert. So when you're looking for land, you also want to look at what you want to do, what you're going to need. Do you want to be in the desert that doesn't produce a lot of greenery to feed animals? Do you want to be in the high desert where you don't have a lot of water to water your animals? Or do you want to be in a better climate that is going to offer greenery and plenty of moisture? Like here in Arkansas, we get like 47 inches on average a year. So we're talking 40 inches more a year. Well, when I had my house in Cotopaxi, starting out homesteading, we all saw I started having to order water trucks. So all my money was going to buy a water truck to come up several times a month because the rain catchment wasn't enough for all the animals I was getting. So then I went to the ranch, did my research, giant pond, a creek that came through sometimes throughout the year, and then I had the well put in. So I had plenty of water. I did 50 acres and fenced 50 acres. So my feed bill was going down. It didn't go down a lot because Colorado doesn't produce a lot of greenery. And then I moved here to Arkansas. So now I have no issues with water. But when I first moved here, I bought land without water. And luckily I had good neighbors. And the neighbors let me get water from the creek. Because another neighbor has the head of the creek and it ran through their property. So they allowed me to get water until I could get myself situated. Now, there's the water company I didn't know about at the time that I haul water from the restaurant that I get water from, and I can get water from them. But then I dug a hole here. I didn't dig a hole. I had a hole dug and put that liner in the back of the homestead. And now I have all the water in the water hole. And with all the rain and groundwater pushing up, since it's a seasonal aquifer or whatever it's called, I can't remember now. But it refills that pull up throughout the year multiple times a year. So now I have plenty of water. Well, if you've been watching my posts that I've been putting up, I put up some pictures of the gutters. I've been working on the gutters here. So I connected the two sheds together. So I had the water set up. So every 3 inches is like 1,100 gallons just off these two roofs. Now, if I had the infrastructure done, I would have my power building roof collecting water. I would have the bathhouse roof collecting water. I would have my house roof collecting water. I would have the barn roof collecting water. And I would have something like 50 to 60,000 gallons of water a year just off of the roof, which is way more than me, the animals, the hot tub, a pool, everything would consume a year. So that water could be diverted into a pond and have multiple ponds. And that's what I plan to do as well. So that's another thing when you're looking at homesteading, something to avoid is if you can't afford to buy land with water on it, get the infrastructure built first before you have the animals. Now, if you do what I've done and you move different times, different places, and get more land, like I've done from 2.5 to 50 acres to now 120 acres, you're not going to have that infrastructure because you already have your animals. So what you need to focus on is whatever the main priority is. My main priority was getting the animals in a secured area. So I started off with a very, very small pen. Now the pen is all the way down to dirt. Eventually I'll save up some money and I'll get the dirt area seeded and I'll have good grass growing in. I can take down all the dead trees now. But now the main priority is getting a bigger pen, because with a bigger pen, the animals will be able to forage. They'll be able to eat wild natural grasses and weeds and poison ivy and thorn bushes and all different things to get all different minerals and all different chemical compounds into them that they would have in nature. Because as you see, the deer don't go to the vet every day or every year. You know, they don't get shots and everything like that. And same thing with livestock and on a homestead. A lot of people are looking at chemicals and shots and all that different types of stuff to maintain their animals, when if you had a large pen like I do and the animals have space to roam, the feces isn't building up in their stall, they're not laying in the feces in their stall, they're not eating in their feces in the stall, their stall water doesn't get poop and stuff flung into it. So by having open space, you have less issues with animals getting sick, with animals getting worms. Not saying it doesn't happen. I still, once or twice a year, depending on the year and how the animal coats and everything look, I still have to do some worming because you're going to get it. bears, deer, all that, they still get worms out in the wild. But they're not going to the vets all the time. Same thing with my animals. You know, I doctor the animals. If an animal gets hurt, like Max got hurt, or like Tiny do when I first got him back in 2016 when he jumped through that window and slid his back wide open, I doctored him up. So one of the mistakes a lot of homesteaders make is, I'm going to take the animals to the vet. I'm going to take the animals to the vet. I'm going to take the animals to the vet. Well, when you get your animals, you don't think, if I go to the vet 30 times a year, I'm going to have a $40,000 a year bill that you didn't plan for. So one of the things to avoid is going to somebody and not learning it yourself. There's YouTube out there, there's Google out there, there's all these different avenues of doing your own research to work on your animals. Yes, if you have a massive surgery, if they have a gash that, you know, you can see organs or something like that, yes, you're going to have to go to the vet. That's going to be a cost. But for a gash or a cut or something like that, that you can fix yourself and save all that money from going to a vet, I highly recommend it. Then that gives you more money for fencing, more money for barns, more money for feed, more money to buy more animals if you want more animals. And going with more animals, that's another thing. You also have to have a line, which we all know I haven't had that line yet because I got more and more animals. I got baby cows being born. I got tons of baby goats running all around right now. Is, when do you say enough is enough? When do you say no more animals? Or what do you do to start dispatching animals or selling animals or what have you? So we all know I have a goal, and that is to feed these big old dogs off of the homestead. So that takes a lot of meat, or a lot of money, a lot of food. And that's one of the things I'm going to be doing. And one thing you can avoid doing is getting a bunch of animals and not having a way to feed the animals or help with the life cycle or ecosystem of feeding everything on your homestead. For example, if you have chickens, chickens lay eggs, you can eat eggs. If you don't eat the eggs, the dogs can eat the eggs. If the dogs don't eat the eggs, the hogs can eat the eggs. Chicken meat. Chickens get old, or chickens are stupid. They end up killing themselves or dying somehow. Then, or if you butcher the chicken, you got chicken meat for you, chicken meat for dogs, chicken meat for the hogs. If a chicken dies, you feed the chicken to the hogs, not the dogs, because you don't want your dogs to get sick if there's something wrong. Hogs can have some of the worst stuff, and that they don't get sick from it. Don't know how, but they just secrete all the toxic stuff. Then with the hogs you have, when you butcher out a hog, you got bacon, you got pork chop, it feeds you. Any fat scraps, you cook it up, you feed the chickens. That's high fat, high protein. They need that for their eggs. Same thing with dogs. You can feed the dogs. All the poop, you compost that. That turns into compost. That turns into good soil. That turns into gardening. Your garden plants can feed you, feed dogs, feed the hogs, feed the chickens. You build your own little ecosystem. So that's one of the things to avoid. Is a lot of people get a bunch of animals, or they want to do a bunch of homesteading, and they don't think of these things. They sit there and they eat the egg, they throw the shell away. Well, that shell just costs you how much money for calcium and minerals and everything that chicken needed to be able to produce that egg. So if you're homesteading right now and you throw chicken shell or chicken egg shells or duck egg shells, goose egg shells, whatever shells in the garbage, you're wasting money. You're wasting a possible ecosystem of reproducing. That's another thing you're mistaking. Another thing to avoid when homesteading is throwing out free money. When you brush your dogs, that hair has different minerals and compounds and stuff in it that is good in the soil. So are you throwing your dog hair in the trash, or are you composting the dog hair? If you have llamas and alpacas, are you throwing the hair away when you shear them? Your sheep, when you shear your sheep, are you throwing it away because it's all matted and dirty and nasty? Well, you're throwing away free compost, free money that can be going into your soil, which can then grow your produce, which feeds your animals, which feeds you, and it continues. It saves money over time. Now, are we ever going to be self sufficient being a homesteader? We will never, never, never be self sufficient. That's one of the big things all these homesteading channels talk about, all the shorts talk about, is being self sufficient by homesteading and prepping and blah, blah, blah. You will never be self sufficient. You will always have to buy hay or feed or shovels or fencing or concrete or shears or soil or seeds or something. You will never be able to be 100% self-sufficient. Neither were the original homesteaders back in the 1800s. There were trading posts. People did whatever they did. If they had a bunch of chickens, they took eggs. They traded the chicken eggs for a shovel, or chicken eggs for butter, because they couldn't afford to have a cow, because they had too small of a homestead to have grass, or they bartered and traded for a wagon load of grass. That's another thing to think about when you want to homestead, and when you're going to homestead, is avoiding the pitfalls of everything's unicorns and rainbows, and I'm going to build a pretty chicken house and think it's going to look pretty. In a week, it's going to be covered in chicken poop. It's going to be covered in chicken poop dust. It's going to be covered in scratch marks and everything else. It's not going to be pretty. You're not going to become self-sufficient. You're not going to become a multi-million-dollar business that pays you to be on your homestead. Yes, if you find a certain niche, you might be able to do that. If you sell drama and everything like that for a YouTube channel, yes, you can get 1 million viewers and make a living that way. But for most of us, that's not going to happen unless you want to go down the pitfalls of what other people decide to do. The last thing in avoiding that you want to avoid when you're homesteading is knowing your limits, knowing what you want out of this life, what you are willing to do for this life, what you're not willing to do for this life, and what you're capable and not capable of. So, for example, I have 120 acres. I want the whole 120 acres fenced. I've been here for 4 years, and I've only fenced a very small amount of the homestead. Very, very small amount of the homestead. All the fencing, if you've been watching this channel for the last couple of weeks, all this fencing I got will not even cover a fourth of the homestead. It's going to be about a sixth, maybe a seventh of the homestead is how much fencing I got. It looks like a lot of fencing. 30,000 is a whole lot of money for fencing. The 2,000 T-posts I bought is a lot of T-posts, but it just does not go far. So when you're looking at homesteading and you want a lot of land, realize, A, it's going to be a lot of cost. Don't make the pitfall of thinking, I want all this land, I'm going to get it done, and then realize 120 acres of fencing is about $400,000, $380,000, $400,000 just for fencing. If you do fencing that I'm doing. If you buy 120 acres and it's all woods and you want to turn it into farmland to grow crops, to sell crops at a crop share, well, it's going to cost a lot of money to log it and pull all the stumps and till the land and bring in the fertilizers and all that type of stuff. So you got to realize what you want to do, how you want to do it, and what the costs are going to be. And then on top of that, you got to realize you yourself. I want 120 acres fenced. I've been here 4 years working on fencing, doing other projects too. But it's realistically going to probably take me 20 years to fence 120 acres of land by myself. If I hire companies, I can get it done a lot quicker. But then that goes into that $400,000 worth of fence is now going to be $1 million worth of fence. So those are a bunch of pitfalls, mistakes, and things I wanted just to throw out there. There's going to be a lot more when you get into it if you're not already in it. And if you're in it, you probably had a lot of other things I haven't dealt with and a lot of things I don't know about because I haven't experienced myself. But I just want you guys to realize that there's all different things to think about before you start. And the biggest thing is infrastructure. A lot of channels, right away, people get animals. They don't have the infrastructure. And that's one of the hardest things to do is to have animals with no infrastructure. It's very hard to not even have a pen set up, let alone not a proper barn. Now, yes, animals live in the wild. There's not barns, and they live just fine. I understand that. I know some people like to put coats on horses and stuff like that because they think they can't survive out in the weather. They've been doing it since before humans were here. They're going to do it long after humans are gone. I understand that. So for those of you that are going to say that, I know that. I still want a barn because when I have babies born, it'd be nice to section off the mother and the baby so that way they're taken care of. They don't get separated. I don't lose to predators or neighbors' dogs or things like that. And if I need to work on an animal, I can work on an animal. It's inside. If I've got a sick animal, I've got somewhere that I can keep warm or keep cool or what have you and go from there. So going forward, now we're going to get to the section of what have I done this week, what's new on the homestead, what's going on forward. So, put up some photos. I haven't put up all the photos, but I got the gutters done tonight. Finally, the gutters are done. I'm going to do a lot more showing the gutters. I took a bunch of pictures. I'm also going to do a little bit of video with pictures. As you see, all the cameras are gone. All the cameras put up. I got cameras all over the place throughout the homestead. Another good thing I got going on, invest it into something else. I know a lot of you out there have told me for years and years I've been told, get this, and get a drone. I didn't get a drone, but I did. I finally got a GoPro. So I got a GoPro 13, which is the newest one. It's nice. It fits right inside my hand. That's how small it is. So I'm going to do what I've had some people ask me throughout the years, and I've got a chest harness thing for it. And I'm going to put the GoPro on the camel or a horse or goat and let them walk around for a bit or for a day. So I'm learning on how to edit and get this from this over to my phone to my video editor. So it's going to be a learning curve. And I know a lot of you have been wanting me to get back to editing videos. And I've got to start from scratch because with my last phone when it broke, I didn't have anything saved. So my intro, my exit, and all that was done. So now that I got the new GoPro, I've got the new cell phone I'm filming on now, which all has good picture quality. I'll be able to start a new intro for the channel. I'll redo a new Sunday, Monday vlog intro. Do all different things. I'm also going to be able to wear this. So when I'm out doing some stuff, I'll get some footage that way. I know a lot of people want to see things happening as I'm doing it, not just the after pictures. So I'll have a lot more of that going forward. I tore the shed apart in here. So for those of you that didn't see, my bed used to be above the metal tin. So I had stairs to climb into bed. So now the bed is flush with the couch. Minnie Mouse can get in the bed whenever she wants now. I don't have all the boxes in here. I don't have all the stuff in here. It is empty. So I've got all this space, this big open floor, the couches, and then the bed. Up there, you can see the cardboard. Let's see. Up there above the window, that's the template for the mini split. I got the mini split exterior unit put on its bracket on the wall out there. I'm going to get the mini split going, and then all the lumber you saw is pressure treated lumber for the picture for this video. I got a bunch of 3/4 inch plywood and pressure treated 2x4s. I wanted to do a composite deck out here off of the shed and around the hot tub, but it's like $4,000 to do all the composite, and I don't have that money right now. So for $590, I got all the pressure treated plywood, 2x4s that will at least last for the next 5 years, or whenever I decide to do the composite decking when I have the money. But I'm going to do a deck to tie the two sheds together, and then go off in front of the hot tub, so that way I don't have to try to climb up and over into the hot tub. I'll be able to just climb right in from the deck. Started bringing stuff over. I got the new shed here. For those of you that didn't see that, the new shed's all set up. Of course, now I got the gutters done on that shed and this shed. Everything's tied together with cistern. Got a little bit of rain tonight, so there's water in the water cistern already. So I'm already starting with water. Started moving some stuff from the restaurant over here. Starting to fill the shed up. Get stuff out the restaurant so I can get that changed on the contract, that I don't need 60 days to be out of it. That when somebody buys it, they can take it over right away. There's no delay. So hopefully that will help bump the restaurant from being sold quicker. But going forward, it's going to be, the deck is going to be the next thing. As soon as the deck is done, I'm going to get the mini split done in here, and then get back to fencing, because that's the main priority. Like I said, by this spring, I want to have at least the next section done, so that way the animals have about 3 times the space that they have now. I'm going to change the whole homestead around. So I'll be talking about that later on down the line when I figure out everything and have pictures and things, GoPro footage, to be able to show everything I'm doing. But fencing is going to be till spring, and then come spring, it's going to be right to the power building, and then I'll talk about everything else going on the New Year's new goal in January. And then, of course, end this month, I'm going to have to go back, watch my New Year's new goal 2024, and figure out what I've done and what I haven't done for end of year review, and do my video the end of December for that. So we have about a week worth of rain coming in, so I'm probably not going to get anything done this week. So this next Sunday, Monday vlog, I'm not sure what I'm going to go over for that. I'm not going to have much to say I've done, but I'll come up with a new topic for next week's Sunday, Monday vlog. And besides that, it's just a bunch of baby goats being born. The baby cow is doing good. The baby goats are doing good. Beautiful weather this year. Very, very mild winter. We've been in 50s and 60s, and then some cold nights, and now we're getting back into rain, and we're supposed to be in the upper 50s and 60s for the next 7 days, and going into New Year doing well. Christmas this year, I'm not very Christmassy. Not having my lights up, not having the tree up. I don't even want to really watch Christmas movies, and everybody knows that's not me. I'm very Christmas. But this year, not so much. Next year, I'm going to be very Christmassy, because next year I'm going to have the power building up. So I'll have all 12 batteries hooked up. I'll have all the different solar panels hooked up. So I'll have more power than I'll know what to do with. So what do you do when you have a lot of power? You put up a whole lot of Christmas lights. So next year, this mountain is going to be lit up like a city in Christmas lights. I'll have my Christmas tree. Not sure if I'll have a house by then, but that'd be a good Christmas miracle if I can have a house by next Christmas, so I can be in a house and not here in the shed. because there's really no space for a Christmas tree in here. But I hope everybody else is having a good Christmas. I hope everybody's having a good December. And I'm not going to do a Christmas video this year or what have you like I've done in the past, because I'm just going to stay in here. I'm going to watch my It's a Wonderful Life, A Christmas Story, and I think Home Alone are the three videos that I watch. And Christmas Eve, I watch an old cartoon Grinch. So I am going to watch those movies, because I only get to watch those 2 days, because I don't like to watch them over and over. I watch all the other Christmas movies over and over. But that's my special thing I do every year, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And I've got some meatloaf and mashed potatoes that I'll microwave for dinner. And it's going to rain. The water system's going to fill up, which will give me water to mix concrete to start building next year and going forward. So, hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you do. The next video will be the Sunday, Monday vlog, and then it will be the end of year in review. And then New Year's new goal, and we'll have a whole new schedule and a whole new pot full of irons going in the fire for next year, to see how much stuff I want to avoid, how much stuff I'm not going to avoid, because I'm going to throw a million irons in the fire, which as a homesteader, you got to realize you're not going to get to half of the irons you want to have ironed out, and go from there. So I hope everybody has a great night, great holiday season. And with that, like always, live happy, live free. That's the only way to be. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great night.